Bob Wankel covers the Phillies. They got 5 games left down in spring. I will be at one of them tomorrow, by the way. Yes, Bob. Yes, I will be. I am leaving after this segment with you. That's why I had to move you from 4:40 to 3:40 because this is my last segment for the week. But I'm so happy to have you with me. How are you, pal?
I'm glad I could wrap up the week with you here, send you out on a high note.
I know. I said yesterday, hey, 4:40 tomorrow work for you? Yep. I said, wait, I won't be here. 3:40 it is. Here we go. We got a lot has changed since the last time we talked on Friday. We had moves today. Let's start there. Center field, one guy's out of the competition because another guy's in. Hazley's back. Moniak's gone. Let's see how center field shakes out over these last 5 games.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about Mickey Moniak, and he had a really impressive spring. I think he acquitted himself very nicely, but it was pretty obvious all along. I know that there was this groundswell to get him in the starting lineup, be the opening day guy out in center field, but that was never going to happen. It was pretty obvious the way that he was being utilized. He wasn't a serious contender right now for playing time. So now you get back Adam Hazley, though, out of nowhere. It looked like he was going to be out at least a week or two into the regular season, and he comes back, gets a hit in his first at-bat last night, plays again today, goes 0 for 3, but he's back in action, feels a little bit sore, he told reporters today, but otherwise good to go. So really, he is now fully back in the mix here. If the Phillies like Adam Hazley, he's going to be in a spot where he's healthy enough to probably be in the lineup on a regular basis come next week. Will they go that direction? Your guess is as good as mine, and you mentioned it. 5 games left in spring training, and I have to tell you, and this is something I intend to ask Joe Girardi after the game today, is there anything that any one of these guys can actually do to put a death grip on the job as we finish up spring training? I mean, we've been at this for 3-4 weeks now, and none of these guys have really separated themselves. So my guess is that whatever attributes each of these players possess, the Phillies kind of already know which direction they're going to go.
All right, Herrera, we've talked a lot about, and we've kind of felt like, hey, he's noticed. If you look at the numbers, though, they're not great. I mean, of course, he's made the highlight reel because he hits the ball over the fence, 222. His on-base percentage is like 250. He's not on the 40-man. Did it just seem because they're trying to give him this shot that they want him to be there, but ultimately in the end, not being on the 40-man, having other 40-man guys they need to get on, does that squeeze him out?
Yeah, I think the 40-man is a big part of this conversation, and I think it may be the most important part of the conversation. Odubel Herrera, after a really good start, looked like he was kind of taking charge of this job here. He's only 3 for his last 18 dating back to March 15th. So, he hasn't really ran with his early success, and I think that has kind of opened the door for a guy like Adam Hazley. When you assess the situation, I still believe that Odubel Herrera probably possesses the most upside of all the players that are there. But I do think that he has quite a considerable low floor as well. And so I think Adam Hazley kind of gives you a steady presence. He's already on the 40-man, and I think that really is going to make this a very difficult decision for the Phillies. Do they value the upside of Herrera enough to kind of tinker with the 40-man roster and maybe give him more at-bats over a guy like Adam Hazley, who they could send down to the alternate site for the first few weeks and let him get some more at-bats as this thing opens up? There are many schools of thought here, and I think that's what makes it so unpredictable.
Before we jump around to some other things, opening day center fielder will be who?
This sounds crazy to say this, but the guy that has sort of gotten overlooked in this entire thing is Roman Quinn. And, I know that he is a frustrating player for a lot of people. I believe he struck out in 12 of his 34 plate appearances this spring. But we're also talking about a guy who's hitting over 300 this spring with an 866 OPS. If we're going by the pure stat line and production and some of the tools that he possesses, he's probably won this job based on this spring training battle, if you want to call it that. Will they go that route? I don't know. But the other consideration that you have to kind of keep in mind here is you're talking about a potential lefty starting for Atlanta on opening day. I don't know if that's official yet, but Roman Quinn is actually a decent hitter from the right side of the plate, a career 770 OPS hitter from the right side. So To me, if I had a bet right now, it might be Roman Quinn, which I would not have said at any point up until the last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, his on-base percentage is like 370. Look, if he's healthy, I have no problem with him being the guy. He just can't stay on the field, so you can't count on him. But if you told me he's going to play 140 games, I got no problem with that. That means he's healthy, and he's probably the guy that excites me the most. We talked about the 40-man. Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad, is with me. We talked about the 40-man. Herrera's not on it. There are Matt Joyce is also not on it. There are 3 pitchers who are also not on it. They have until today, I guess, to decide whether or not. I don't know if they had to make that decision by now. Mathis decided he didn't want to be here, so he got released. But you got Rondon, you've got Watson, and you've got Kinsler. Not on the 40-man. How many of that group make it?
Well, it's interesting. All along, I've kind of been projecting Brandon Kinsler and Tony Watson both to make this team. Tony Watson, over the last week or so, hasn't been very sharp. Now, we're talking about a lefty that has reverse splits. He can get out guys both from the left and right side of the plate. Hitters over the course of his career, both with sub 300 on base percentage. So, this is a guy that knows how to pitch. He's a veteran, all of those things. That being said, considering the 40-man crunch that this team faces, and some of the production that they've gotten from guys like Jojo Romero this spring, who threw the ball well again today, Sam Coonrod, which is one of Dave Dombrowski's first moves that he made when he joined the Phillies. He has been lights out this spring. Again, a clean inning today. You can start these guys down at the alternate site, but I just wonder if they say, in light of our 40-man situation, we'll go with Kinsler. That's our experience. Maybe Tony Watson's a guy who made some sense a couple weeks ago, but as this thing has started to play out, I just wonder if they're going to go in a different direction there.
Yeah, I know, because Joyce, you would imagine he makes it, right?
I would think so. Although, he provides one very specific skill. We're talking about a guy that can provide good late inning at bats, a potential, spot start. Maybe they look at this, though, and they say, okay, well, both Matt Joyce and Odubel aren't on our active roster. We're already paying Odubel Herrera a ton of money. Why don't we just go with him and leave Joyce as the odd man out? But considering the spring that Joyce has had and the skill set that he possesses, which I think is a really important one, I would think that he would make this team. But I guess crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I was looking through the 26. You got 13 pitchers. You got your starting, 7. We definitively know center field's going to have a couple of guys. Then you're building that bench. Miller being hurt, it really adds. They don't have a guy to play first base. I guess you could play Bohm over there. Miller could play there. But they don't have that, hey, I'm the backup first baseman. Or really, other than Kingery, they don't really have that utility guy. I know last week you kind of hinted at Kingery could be in some trouble, but who would be that super utility type of guy? He plays second, third, short, left, center, and right. So, at that point, I feel like he's got to almost make it.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to say this, but and I'm sure that Scott doesn't feel this way, but the best thing that may have happened to Scott Kingery is Brad Miller's injury, because on merit, Scott Kingery does not deserve to be on the opening day roster.
No.
You just look at what he did last year. You look at how he's been this spring. He cannot hit a 95-mile-an-hour belt-high fastball. But, yeah, in light of what we see with Brad Miller, I think there's some concern about his readiness, coming up here at the beginning of April. So Scott Kingery probably is on the opening day roster. The other thing that they could possibly do when you start to look at the 40-man situation, Joe Girardi, man, loves Ronald Torreyes. And, he's somebody else that would have to be added. He's a light hitter, but he can play both infield and outfield positions. And I almost wonder, you see him taking down important innings here as we come down the stretch in spring training. I just kind of wonder if he factors into this mix at some point as well. So, the Brad Miller thing is a big deal. This bench right now looks a little bit thin, and I just don't think it's best for Scott Kingery or the team, really, that Scott Kingery is going to start the season up. The only upside of Scott Kingery being in Philadelphia when the season begins is that for all the mechanical issues that he has with his swing right now, I think a lot of it is about confidence. So now if he goes down to the alternate site, doesn't play in minor league games consistently until the season starts in May, he's got a whole entire month to doubt himself even more. Maybe if he's up with the Phillies and he gets a key hit here and there, makes a couple plays to help them win some ball games, maybe that confidence starts to return and he can build off of that. But other than that, I can't construct an argument for it being a good thing that Scott Kingery is going to be with the Phillies.
By the way, Ranger Suarez was sent down as well today, so he was the guy that was in that bullpen mix. I'll get your thoughts on that bullpen. Did you read into yesterday at all? Real Muto hit 2, Harper 3, Hoskins 4. Is that just to get Real Muto a couple extra at-bats, or do you think they might go with him 2, which I prefer over Hoskins, and Hoskins 4?
It's possible. I think for the purposes of last night, though, it was about making sure that they could get him the multiple at-bats as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe that's something to consider. I think just based on what we've seen and what we saw last year, that they're going to be inclined because of Hoskins' on-base skills to go McCutchen, Hoskins, Harper, Real Muto, Bohm, Gregorius, Segura, and then take your pick out in center field. If I were like a betting guy, which I've been known to be, I guess, that's probably what I would say the opening day lineup is going to be. But I guess it's possible. I mean, I understand why someone would want to hit, or why you in this case would want to hit Real Muto a little bit higher up.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if it were me, I would put Harper 2 and Bohm 3. I think Bohm's the best hitter on the team.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument when it just comes to overall approach, ability to kind of hit with 2 strikes.
Yep.
Use all fields, all that stuff. I mean, he's a dream, in that spot. I think the only drawback there is you say, like, we like what we've seen from this kid, but as we've seen here in Philadelphia over the last few years, very early success in a player's career does not always translate to linear success moving forward.
Yeah.
Colton Wentz and Carter Hart can tell you all about that. So I think that Alec Boehm's a different kind of player. I think he's wise beyond his years. But that would be one potential drawback of giving him that much.
He seems like a different type of hitter than this new era where everything's a home run or a strikeout. He is the old school guy. I'll go the other way. You throw it to the outside, I'll take it to the outside. You're going to pitch me in, I'll hit it this way. Like, he is hitting it where it's pitched. Like, imagine that. Like, it's almost like no AAU coach ever got his hands on him, thank God.
Yeah, no. He must have been coached by a lot of guys with bad infields that said, just hit it hard on the ground somewhere, shoot it on drive somewhere, it'll get through.
Yeah, I love his approach. I love the way he's just not afraid to, hey, I'll lace it over the second baseman's head. I'll rip one over the third baseman's head. You throw it I'll hit it where it's pitched. I love his approach in that. So, hey, look, this team is kind of interesting. As we said, 5 games left. Let's go real quick to that bullpen, as we mentioned. Suarez is now out. You mentioned Watson. We don't know what's going to happen with the Velazquez-Howard stuff, but how many guys are still in the mix for what, 4 spots?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we see it, right? Archie Bradley, Hector Neris, Jose Alvarado, locks. I think that we're trending in a direction I think that Brogdon, I wouldn't call him a lock, but for me, he's on there. I'm projecting out this bullpen. He's a guy.
He's the best guy they got.
Yeah, I think that Romero's in. I think that Brogdon's in. I think that Kinsler's in. Then you have 2 spots left. I think that Vince Velasquez, $4 million salary. I've talked about why I think he would be a great trade piece. But, Joe Girardi's talking about wanting a couple guys that can pitch multiple innings out of the bullpen. I guess Velasquez is going to be one of those spots. And then that comes down to that 8th spot. And this is what we talked about. Do you clear out another 40-man spot for a guy like Tony Watson? Or do you kind of roll the dice and you say, hey, Sam Coonrod's a guy that we went out, traded for. We like him, has a big, powerful arm, throws in the high 90s. He's really gotten his control under control here in the spring. And do you give him that 8th spot? So that's something else to consider. And that's kind of why the more I look at this, I had Watson in, and now I'm kind of trending towards having Watson out.
All right, Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad at Bob Wankel CB for all the Phillies notes. Joe Girardi, obviously, and the Phils putting this roster together. 4 games left after today. They play a night game tomorrow night, couple more, and then they'll be home to open the season against the Braves. Aaron Nola will pitch opening day. And here we go. Phillies baseball is back. Feels like there's a little bit of a buzz with some of the things they did late with Dombrowski's hire. And Bob will be with us all baseball season to kind of break it all down. Great stuff, man. I will talk to you soon.
Enjoy the trip, man.
I will do so. Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad, Phillies writer. Of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.